Hi guys, thank you for joining. This is Essence of Science, and today we're talking about penguins. I'm Amanda Armagoss.
And I'm Dr. Abbasi for Essence. Why a polar bear would never eat a penguin?
Why?
Would never. A polar bear would never eat a penguin. Why? Guess.
Because they can't catch them?
Well, have you seen how penguin walk? The polar bear can run like 40 miles an hour. You can never, by the way, talking about the bears, if it's black, fight back.
If it's brown, lay down.
If it's white, good night. Okay,
yeah,
so
you can't fight a polar bear.
No, you cannot fight it. But and have you seen how the penguin walk?
Okay, well, I was thinking that they would belly slide away into the ocean and swim away. I know penguins are good swimmers. Right?
Yes, they are. They're very good swimmers.
Yeah, I'm sure
in water, nobody can get them. But no, the actual reason is polar bears are in the North Pole and penguins are in the South Pole. So that's the reason.
I actually really thought that penguins were in the North Pole.
No, they are not.
So that's why there's penguins in South Africa.
Yes, it's South. Penguins are in the South and polar bears are in the North. Okay. So there is no.
So that's not really a joke, just so you know.
Both. It's both. It's a trivia and a joke, because I think if a polar bear would see a penguin, they would eat it, no problem. Polar bear, by the way, they eat anything. They eat even their young. And so the mother polar bear, as soon as they have they're done with their deed and they have children, they fight the male to get away from them. For polar bear, for male, okay, children, my children, you're lucky I'm not a polar bear, because you would be food.
Would you rather talk about polar bears?
No. Let's talk about penguins. So, what do you know? They are amazing animals. What do you want to know about them?
I know actually quite a few facts about penguins. I know that don't they mate for life?
They're actually I mean, I'm not if all of them make it for life, but I know emperor penguins do mate for life.
And I know that one of their little flirting techniques is finding rocks.
Stealing rocks, even.
Really? Stealing pebbles from each other?
No, they steal pebbles from each other. And they did actually some social study on penguin. If a penguin steals rock, those are chin strap, mostly chin strap penguin that they do that. They're called chin strap because they have a white thing going around their chin. They don't have chin. Penguins don't have chin. Okay?
Don't worry. I didn't think that.
So, coming back to that, they did this social study that if a penguin watches another penguin stealing pebbles, they would never trust that penguin again.
There's a lot of animals like that. We always underestimate animals and their social norms, their social rules, but animals do not like when other animals treat other animals poorly, even bats.
Yeah, but I think they don't really have a nest in a sense, but they have these pebbles, so they are not on ice.
I think they stand on their pebbles.
Yeah, they stand on their pebbles, and so this is a kind of like a nest, and they have the egg, which is
they lay one egg, right?
They have one egg. Well, because they have to keep that egg warm. If you have more than one egg, there's not enough thing to keep that. No, okay. Well, we talked about that. Where are most of the penguins? It's not in South Pole as people think they are.
I guess South Africa.
Well, they are in lots of things, but the vast majority of them are along many of the islands next to the South Pole. And as a matter of fact, the so-called South Georgia Island, that's the island where Shackleton got stranded, by the way, if you know who that is the South Pole explorer. It's again different story. We want to talk about penguin, not Shackleton. But the South Georgia Island, it has the highest density of penguin anywhere on the planet. Okay, but still it is cold, very cold.
Yeah.
So you have to keep the egg warm, and you don't want to be on ice because it freezes.
Yeah.
And you have to keep it warm. So you put the belly and use the belly to keep it warm. And there's not enough space for more than one egg. So
and who does it, the mom or the dad?
Well, they switch.
They take turns.
They take turns. As a matter of fact, they get away from the coastline enough to be safe, and as well, it's less windy. But then the female laid egg, the male sit on it. Just in the middle of the winter, they come all together and they actually emperor penguin. They switch. Whoever is outside, eventually they go inside, and they have their own social way of dealing with that.
Yeah, social structure.
And those pebbles stealing is not the emperor penguin.
Yeah, you said it was a chinstrap.
Yeah, or some other penguin. But then, in that time, they are keeping this warm. The females go back to the ocean,
hunting,
eating, and they literally come back after a while, and have to walk all the way.
Days, though.
Yeah, it's days of walk. Especially because if you see how they're walking, you know why they have to walk.
They don't have long legs.
They just go one by one and so on. Now, as cumbersome their activities outside of the water, you should see them in the water.
They're agile.
Oh my God. I mean, they are like bullets, like torpedoes in the water.
Because of those feathers they have too. Those feathers are like water resistant.
Yeah, they never get the water on their skin. Those feathers keeps everything, have macroscopic air bubbles that keeps everything out. As a matter of fact, when they come out of water, like they are not wet. They
just shake off.
They shake it off, and then they're amazing animals. And for a while, we couldn't even identify that as feather because they're macroscopic.
Yeah.
But obviously, penguins are birds. Okay, that is amazing. They're birds that live their life in water. I mean, biology always amazes me. So, and another thing is that they produce something milk-like, because you see, remember, they go to the water, they eat. But how are they going to bring food back to their children? Well, they have to digest it and so on. It takes days for that.
I guess I was just kind of imagining like they somehow take the food. I don't know. I never really thought of that. I guess I kind of thought that they put it where they keep their egg and then just move on.
So have you seen other birds feeding their children, right? They go take a worm, bring it there, and then the other bird, the mouth is open. Have you seen that? That's so funny.
Yeah, I have some babies in my backyard.
Yeah. So imagine now, it would take you a whole month or so to go to the ocean, bringing that food back and so on. Okay, it is cold and so on. So are they going to keep that fish in their mouth? So they're not going to do that. They eat it. It all get digested, and then they create something milk-like thing from their throats. That is how they feed their young.
Yeah, right, because they don't have nipples.
No, they don't. They're birds. They're birds. They don't have nipples. That's right. But you see, nature tries everything.
Yeah, so, that is crazy.
Yeah, it is.
They regurgitate.
No, it's not actually. It's not regurgitate. It's actually milk-like substance. Wow. They produce it just for that purpose.
Okay.
So if they say mammals produce milk, no, penguin produce milk too. It's just not from nipple. It comes from some internal organ. It makes sense as well, because birds have over the years learned to take the food from the mouth of the parent, and that is the best place for them to produce whatever food they are going to give their children. And then, what the amazing part is now, this penguin, they go, they eat, they come back, and they are in a colony where there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of individuals. How do they find it? They look all the same to me. How do they find each other?
They don't look the same to each other, I bet.
I bet they don't. In your social structure, you recognize the features more. Yes, that's one point. But still, you come there, there's a colony of 1 million or 100,000 penguins. How do you find each other?
How? Tell me.
Well, they sing. They have this noise.
Oh, cute.
Yeah, but imagine within hundreds of thousands of noise, everybody's, I'm here.
No, but I can understand that, because when I go to my brother's choir concerts, I can pick out his voice, even though he's singing with his whole class.
But
I know
could
it's
you
fun.
still do it if there were 100,000 people
I bet I
singing?
could.
100,000 people. Then you
Tony,
have,
I could.
but then you have the um, penguin level. They actually imprint before they leave. They imprint the not only the voice of the partner, but
The
as well the
song.
child.
Mm.
Now, first is a actually a egg, but when they come back, they imprint then the male goes. They imprint in their brain the actual tone and signature of that voice, and when they come, they practically eliminate everything else and just they only hear that. Like
That's
how
kind
many
of
people?
romantic.
Yeah,
Like I only hear your voice in a crowd of a million.
yeah. And
So when
imagine.
the men go, do they make that milk too?
To my best knowledge, this is a good question. I never thought about that, but I'm sure we can find out. I think both of them make it because both of them have to feed their young.
No, they don't. However, in one species, the emperor penguin, the male can produce the secretion.
Yeah.
It's called crop milk.
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously,
But it only happens if the female hasn't returned from hunting and the chick is already hatched.
Yeah. Well, so they can. Either way. Now imagine they come back and they find each other, and this bond is very important for them. And if they don't find, or if the baby is dead, they go to a mourning process. Actually.
Wow. And what is that like?
Well, have you ever been depressed? That's how it looked
Well,
like.
I mean, is it as intense as the whales? Like, the mom whales when their baby dies and they carry the corpse around until it literally falls apart?
I'm going to give you the thing of your own. Are we talking about? We can talk about whales, but do you want to talk about whales? Because I love
process.
Well, some of them go crazy. They go and kidnap other babies.
Wow. Do they have funerals?
I don't believe they have funerals. To my
There
best
are
knowledge.
birds that have like funerals, crows.
Yeah. I don't believe penguins have funerals because in the places they are, if you're dead, you freeze solid in no time, and you get covered pretty fast, or other animal comes and eat you, and so on. So I don't believe they have funerals. Now you need to know their life environment is extremely harsh. It's not the lush Amazonian jungle and so on. It's nothing there.
Yeah.
Yet they live only from water and very little resources. And but they chose it that way because they're birds. They cannot give birth in the water, and because they're clumsy, anywhere else the babies would be eaten by other predator. So they chose a place, the only place, even though so harsh, that the babies can be safe until they grow up to be able to swim.
Don't get mad. I know that crows are playful. And I know that crows are known to do like windsurfing, snowboarding off of roofs and things like that. I think I've heard that penguins are playful. Is it true?
Yeah, it is true. Have you seen that documentary called Happy Feet?
That's one of my favorite kids movies, actually.
Yeah.
So they are playful. They actually do. I've seen videos of penguins sliding down.
I think you can. But you see, there's a. Are you familiar with the word anthropomorphizing?
Yeah,
meaning that attributing human characteristic to other animals. They behave certain way. We don't know if that's being playful, if it's a social thing, but on the way, what is playful with human?
But you can guess it's playful. For example, the crows, when they're windsurfing, they do it over and over again. Or
they go on a roof and then they slide they down. Take something like a small little piece of wood, flat piece of wood, and so on, and
slide down, and then they go back up and slide down again, and they'll do it over and over again.
Yeah,
that's obviously playful. There's no other reason to do that.
Well, we are not in the mind of a crow, so we don't really know.
Go read the book, The Life of Crows, and it's going to tell you that they are playful.
I'm not disputing that they're playful, but I'm saying that process that we attribute human characteristic to animal is called anthropomorphizing. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We can call it whatever we want. It seems they have fun. Let's
Right,
put
that's
that.
what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Like,
I think all animals at one or another level do that. Now, the difference here is that um, when the life is so harsh, like penguin have, when you're just fighting to survive, I think the playfulness is reduced to a minimum. So they're not as playful as crows.
Maybe not, their social structure, do they have hierarchies? Are they violent with each other?
Uh, mm, to my best knowledge, only if females steal the other females' chick or egg. Sometimes they do that. If they lose their own egg, they try to.
They still want a baby.
Yeah. So, and then it can get. But generally, they are more peaceful than lots of other animals.
They would rather work together to stay warm than to fight for resources.
They have to. We talked about that you know, we are in Minnesota. We know what cold is. Yeah. But the coldest weather here is a breeze.
It's a summer day.
It's a summer day for them, you know.
Yeah, that's their playful days.
Yeah, that is exactly. So and they have to stick together, and the winds are horrible. So they have to have I think, social structure that people, the individual that are outside, they turn inside, and it's a rotation thing and so on. That's how they keep each other actually alive.
But there probably wouldn't be like the top person in the hierarchy who just stays in the middle the whole time.
To my best knowledge, they don't have this kind of hierarchy or alpha. This is a typical mammal thing, the alpha thing and so on. This is other animals don't have that hierarchical structure.
Thank you guys for watching. This was Essence of Science, and we talked about penguins a little bit. I'm Amanda Armagost.
And I'm Dr. Abbasi.
Have a good weekend.